Some of you may be wondering why I'm reviewing Portal 2. I think it's necessary to demonstrate what a better product, maybe even legendary product is when you compare it to Quantum Conundrum.
Portal 2 is one of the most anticipated sequels to a game that was essentially freeware. Valve included Portal in the orange box as an experiment. If it didn't go well, at least there were 4 other games. They did not expect Portal to be the success that it was, essentially single-handedly selling the orange box.
So of course a sequel had to be made, and was one of the most anticipated games of 2011, and it didn't disappoint, unlike Duke Nukem Forever.
I honestly thought that Duke Nukem was going to beat Portal 2 for Game of the Year, but I guess 14 years in development is what really hurt the game. But back on topic. Portal 2 picks up right after where the first Portal left off. Well, not really. It takes place several hundreds, if not thousands of years later, and the entire facility has essentially fallen into ruin and is overrun with plant life.
It really makes you wonder how the facility got that bad. Even without GLaDOS, there's still some automation going on in terms of personality cores doing their own thing.
Yeah, the only personality core we see is Wheatley, but you gotta assume that there's others, as Wheatley hints that there are others running around the facility. And then there's the announcer, who seems to have some priority over GLaDOS, yet doesn't do much. But the characters are really just vessels for the amazing dialogue. Yes, the dialogue is just as top-notch as the first Portal. While the humor is dark and twisted like the first Portal, it's more antagonistic than the first. I suppose you can assume that it's because GLaDOS no longer has that morality core, as it was destroyed in the first game.
While GLaDOS has been compared to HAL 9000 from 2001 Space Odyssey and Shodan from System Shock, she's also displayed some traits from Am from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
At this point in time, GLaDOS hates you, but maintains her passive-aggressive and sarcastic nature that she had in the first game. She wants you dead, but refuses to outright kill you and would rather have you die from failing a test. Her dry wit and subtle insults are meant to discourage you, and no matter how far along you get, she still plays her mind games and attempts to emotionally hurt you. But you do learn that GLaDOS is essentially a tragic character. She used to be a human whose consciousness was transferred into a computer, so you actually feel bad for her. You'd probably be pretty angry if your mind was forced into a computer against your will.
Even though she evolves as a character, GLaDOS is still at heart an antagonist, and that's what makes her funny, because she's trying to hurt you.
The character Wheatley is also funny. He's probably the most human character in the game. He's also pretty stupid and clumsy. It was because of him that a lot of the human test subjects are dead, but when he manages to do something right, he has this smug look on his face. Which is funny because he's always messing things up. Cave Johnson, who was originally supposed to be the antagonist in an early draft of the script, is only heard through pre-recorded messages. You get to hear the rise and fall of Aperture Science as you go through the test chambers that were designed in the 50s, 70s, and 80s. Cave's personality is great. He has this reckless sense of adventure and can sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves. And each character has their own personality that makes them come alive, and the performances of Ellen McLean, J.K. Simmons, Stephen Merchant, and Nolan North are all well done, and you can tell that they were having fun voicing these outrageous characters.
The storytelling in Portal is also a lot better. It reveals things subtly, allowing you to see the story unfold before your eyes, and when you do learn something, it's almost a euphoric moment.
The music of Portal is great. It's a variety of techno that just works perfectly with an environment populated mostly by robots. And the visuals are amazing. Even though the chambers look similar, they have a very creative look to them. They look clean, too clean in fact, and they're a stark contrast to the areas outside the chambers. You can see how the facility is put together and how modular it is, and you still don't get to see all of it.
But it all boils down to the gameplay, and why is Portal's gameplay so good?
With Portal, you're only in control of 2 portals that you place in the environment, and you can place them on any surface that's a conductor to portals. Portal allows for more outside-the-box thinking. There's not a single solution. You can get creative and make shortcuts for yourself. So with Portal, you really do bend the world to your will. You can take as long as you need once you figure out the solution. It also doesn't focus on platforming either, as the designers knew that they were designing a puzzle game from the first-person perspective. It's more like navigating through a 3-dimensional maze without walls, if that makes sense.
Portal's puzzles are challenging because it's all based around your perspective. If you're not looking at the puzzle correctly, you're not going to see the solution.
You can go through the game multiple times and still get stuck on some of the more challenging puzzles, mainly because you're not looking at the room in the right way. You know that you need to get to the top of the room, but unless you're looking at it the right way, you won't see where you need to put a portal. And the controls are perfect. They're not complicated and allow for faster placement of portals, and therefore faster puzzle solving. which is how puzzles are supposed to be. Simple controls with complex thinking required to solve it. Look at the Rubik's Cube, Tetris, and Lumines. All of them very simple control schemes, but it results in complex puzzles.
And if you don't think Tetris is complex, have you ever gotten that one piece, and you know that one piece that, just doesn't fit, and then you're frantically rearranging all the blocks so this way your stack doesn't go all the way to the top and then you get a game over?
Portal's just one of those games that's perfect in every way. In a world where nearly every first-person shooter is viewed through a brown filter with tons of bloom, Portal keeps things original with quirky, dark, and somewhat offensive humor. A story that reveals itself to you as long as you're paying attention to the imagery and dialogue, as the hints are littered throughout the way. And that's what really impresses me. That alone redefines storytelling for video games in a way that no other game does. Most of your games go from gameplay to cutscene or interactive cutscene where the story moves along, then it's back to gameplay. Maybe the characters talk to themselves or each other, but it's not really delivering any exposition, and is repeating things that you've heard in the cutscenes prior to it.
And like Portal's subtle storytelling, I've already given my rating for this game, and if you haven't been paying attention, oh well.